Hey guys, this is Paul, and I've been using the Google Pixel 4 as my daily driver, my main phone for over the past month, and my experience has been, I would say, mostly positive. Before using the Pixel 4, I was using my iPhone 7, which I'd used for over the past 3 years. So not only was there a bit of a learning curve that comes with switching to a new phone, but I was also switching back to Android for the first time in over 3 years and seeing all the changes that came with that. And to sum it up, I can definitely say that there are many things that I love about the Pixel 4, but I think there were also some interesting decisions that were made that might set it back from some of the other top flagships of 2019. But before I get into it, I have a quick word from the sponsor that made this video possible, .tech Domains. When you're building your own brand and trying to establish an online presence, one of the hardest things to do is find a solid domain name that is short, relevant, and tells everybody what your brand is all about. This is exactly why more and more people in the tech community are reserving their own .tech domains. I recently attained paulann.tech, which goes perfectly with my brand. I currently use it to customize my links in my description to make them more readable, but I could also use it for my personal website if I decided to make one in the future. And this Black Friday and Cyber Monday, you can get your own .tech domain for 90% off. You can join companies like Intel and CES and get your own .tech domain for 90% off on 1, 5, and 10-year domains using the link go.tech/Paul. Search for your own domain and use the coupon code BFCM19 to get your own domain before the sale ends. Starting out with the design, the Pixel 4 and Pixel 4 XL took an interesting approach. Instead of the more traditional approach they took with the Pixel 3, it has a half aluminum, half glossy finish. They went with a much more slippery matte glass back with matte black metal edges. I have the white model here, but it's also available in a glossy black and a matte orange, which is unique. Some people really like the updated design choices, but personally, I think the Pixel 3 looked a little more clean and professional overall, especially if you consider that huge camera piece on the back. Of course, that larger camera piece is necessary to house the 2 cameras that the Pixel 4 now has instead of just the one that the Pixel 3 had, but at least on the white phone that I have, this really stands out and looks pretty ugly in my opinion. But at the end of the day, it's all personal preference. In terms of other design changes from the Pixel 3, the Pixel 4 no longer has this fingerprint scanner on the back, which breaks my heart a little bit because I feel like I'm one of the few people left who still prefer fingerprint scanners over Face Unlock. That being said, the Face Unlock on the Pixel 4 is the best Face Unlock on any phone that I've ever used before. It's literally unlocked before I even have to think about it, and after using it daily for over the past month, I think it might just be starting to win me over from fingerprint scanners on phones. I think now is a good time to briefly mention the new Motion Sense feature, which has been talked about a lot with this phone, and this is the new radar sensor that supposedly makes for more human interactions with your phone. And I have some mixed opinions about it. It's kind of advertised as one of the main selling points of the Pixel 4, but I don't think it's quite as big of a deal as Google was hyping it up to be. So for those of you who don't know, Motion Sense can basically detect your arm movement and turn on the screen of your phone before you even pick it up. And it's also able to skip music and silence phone calls and alarms. It does work okay for the most part. It's pretty nice being able to unlock my phone so quickly because the screen is already on by the time I pick it up. And it is pretty cool and fun to control my music and skip songs with just the swipe of my hand. That being said, it's definitely not 100% reliable. Sometimes it doesn't detect a swipe, and other times I'm just reaching for something and it incorrectly detects a swipe. So there's certainly room for improvement, but for now, I think Motion Sense as a whole would not qualify as a main selling point of this phone. Something that might sell you on the Pixel 4, however, is the new so-called smooth display, which basically raises the refresh rate from the standard 60 Hz to 90 Hz, which makes for a much smoother experience. This is pretty similar to what Apple has done on their iPad Pros. Those are actually 120 Hz, so even a bit smoother than the Pixel 4, and you'll notice this extra smoothness mostly when scrolling through menus on the phone. And I have to say that it's really nice when it's working, even if it is mostly limited to menus and settings on the phone only. But Smooth Display has been under fire a lot recently because it's been discovered that it will basically drop to 60 Hz unexpectedly and unexplainedly, and I've noticed this firsthand a lot. I'd say at least 25% of the time that I'm using the phone, it's running at just 60 Hz, which is really disappointing considering how nice it looks when it's running at 90 Hz. The display itself is really nice. It's a 1080 by 2280 display, so it's about 120 pixels taller than the Pixel 3's display, and it's also a little bit more rounded at the corners of the display, which is nice. It kind of matches the natural curvature of the phone. It's 444 pixels per inch, so obviously it's super sharp. The only slight downside to it would be that it doesn't get super bright. So if you're outside directly under sunlight, it can sometimes be a little hard to see, but that's not really a huge deal, and all in all, it's a nice display. It has great color accuracy, and I like the way it looks. So one way they were able to make the Pixel 4's display taller is actually by removing this front-facing speaker that was on the Pixel 3. So now there's only one front-facing speaker and two smaller speakers on the bottom of the phone. But in conjunction with one another, they're surprisingly loud, and I think it's a worthwhile trade-off to get that extra bit of screen real estate. And then there's the cameras, and the Pixel 3 was known to have one of the best cameras on any smartphone in 2018, and the Pixel 4 is definitely right up there in 2019. But I don't know if it's necessarily a huge improvement over the Pixel 3's camera. Of course, the biggest change with the Pixel 4 is the addition of that 16 megapixel telephoto camera to go with the 12.2 megapixel normal camera that's on the Pixel 3. And don't get me wrong, the telephoto is really nice. It's so much sharper than digitally zooming in on the Pixel 3, but I personally don't take zoomed in photos that much. And I would have much preferred to have a wide angle camera, something that's on the iPhone 11, and I would prefer that any day over a telephoto lens. So it's really disappointing to not see a wide angle camera on the Pixel 4. As far as the normal camera goes, it's really good, but not really that much of an improvement over the Pixel 3. In fact, it's pretty hard to tell the difference between pictures taken on the Pixel 4 and Pixel 3. It still takes great photos, but it's a relatively minor upgrade when you compare it to, say, the improvement from the iPhone XR to the iPhone 11. And the same goes with its 4K video recording. It's not low quality or anything. In fact, I think it looks really good and the stabilization is really impressive, but it only records 4K at 30 FPS, while most other flagships are able to record 4K at up to 60 FPS. All that's to say, if you're looking for the best of the best as far as smartphone cameras go, the Pixel 4 might not be the king like the Pixel 3 was, but it's still a great camera, and I don't think the average user would have any problems with it. Since this is a Pixel, it's obviously running the latest version of Android, Android 10, and the first thing I noticed when switching back from my iPhone 7 was just how similar Android has become to iOS, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I think it's pretty obvious that the Pixel 4 is meant to be as user-friendly as possible to ex-iPhone users, because most of the interface actually mimics that of recent iPhones. In fact, the three main gestures used on iOS are pretty much copied and pasted to the Pixel 4. So you have the swipe up to return to the home screen, the quick right swipe on the bottom to switch recently used apps, and the swipe up to the right to access multitasking. All of these gestures work very well on the Pixel 4. They're very accurate and responsive, and I can't really blame them for wanting to make a more user-friendly, a more familiar experience for iPhone users who are switching to Android. And of course, everything is incredibly quick and snappy. I think it's been many years since I've had to complain about the speed of a new flagship smartphone. But what's more impressive is the battery life. I would consider myself a medium to heavy smartphone user, and the Pixel 4 almost always lasts me an entire day. I think the only time I had it die on me was when I was flying all day and watching movies on the plane for several hours. So as long as it lasts me an entire day, that's about all I could want out of the battery. So at the end of the day, it wouldn't be fair to say that the Pixel 4 isn't a great phone, because it really is. It has an amazing camera, a really solid design, and some impressive new features, but it's not a huge upgrade from the Pixel 3. And when it's priced at $800, it's right up there competing with the best flagships on the market. That being said, there have already been some huge sales on the Pixel 4. In fact, right now it's available on Amazon for just $600, and I'll have the link to that in the description down below. And for that price, it's an incredible option, probably the best $600 phone out there. But I think the fact that it's being discounted by 25% just over a month after its release says a lot about its original price tag. And I think if it was just released at $600 in the first place, this would be a much easier recommendation. Anyways, guys, that's it for my review of the Pixel 4. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys in my next video.